Today's episode, we're going to dive in to my story and how I got to where I am today. Obviously, there's lots of videos out there on TikTok and YouTube and all those other places where you can get different pieces of my story. But here, we're going to hear the whole story. So you guys ready to dive into the journey? Once upon a time, back in the day, when I was just a little toddler, I was a rascal. You ask my mother, I was running everywhere. And I think the best one is that I was climbing everything. And I could care less about what anybody else thought. And I was just going to go everywhere. But one of the things that my mom realized when I was about 1.5 years old, I was making sounds like, like that, because that's what my ears were able to hear. And little did we know that my mom would learn that I was born hard of hearing, but we had no idea why I was born hard of hearing. We had no idea what was the cause of it. The doctor just said I had a neural hearing loss. I can never say that word right, and I'm not going to try. If you want to look at the different hearing losses, the one that in the inner ear. I got my first pair of hearing aids at age, my mom says it's 2, I say it's 1.5. Nobody knows. I don't remember those times, but my mom says I was 2 years old when I got my first pair of hearing aids. And it was a battle for them. It was a battle for them to fight for me to get hearing aids through insurance, and insurance wasn't really willing to cooperate for me to get hearing aids, which is a big problem out there for parents that are going to have kids that have a hearing loss, is being able to afford hearing aids, because these are not cheap. The current hearing aids I have are a little over $3,000 a pop, which is a big issue. Let's kind of fast forward through life here. So I got in my first pair of hearing aids. I'm climbing everything, being a little rascal, and I didn't know anything different. Everything was great. It was just perfect. I was playing with everybody. Everybody we were working together. I was climbing trees and getting myself into trouble and doing all those things. But when I started realizing that I was different was in the first grade. Because of my birthday, I had to repeat first grade twice. I didn't fail it. I just had to repeat it twice. What ended up happening was I had to wear this box, and it's called a trainer, and I can't find them online. I think they banned it from the internet because they were so ugly and so disgusting to look at. They were like puke color to the point where like the brown was so pukey that you couldn't imagine, like, why would you even put that on a kid? It's like it's like a target thing to be made fun of. That was the beginning. When I realized I was having to wear this thing called a trainer, and basically how it works is it's a box, kind of like an Altoid box, and you should pretend you had 2 headphones plugged into it, and little robot straps that goes around the chest and over the shoulders, and the teacher would have a microphone, so that way I could increase the teacher's voice if I needed to hear the teacher better. I never used it, right? Because you were supposed to use it where you increase the teacher's voice, and I could care less. I didn't want to hear the teacher and have her tell me what to do. All I wanted to do was go play. At that point is when we realized, I'd go to recess, and I'll never forget this one kid. He would come up to me and say, "You're a robot." Because I couldn't talk correctly back then, and I didn't know how to pronunciate my words or say my words back then. And he'd be like, bop, bop, boop, bop, boop, wait, bop, bop, boop, boop. And I learned how to use these hammers I have on my hands. And they became very intense. And I would roll my fingers into a hammer and just take the kid out every single time. But who got in trouble? It was me. Not the kid for saying boop bop beep 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 bop boop boop. Kid with the box. All those different names that they would make fun of me with. And I would always get in trouble because I would beat them up. I personally have no shame of doing that, but But the teacher did. And I would get in-school suspension, and my parents would be called, and I would get in trouble at home, and I would tell my mom, like, hey, they were making fun of me, they were not nice, all that stuff. And that went all through first grade. And went into second grade, I went from a public school to a private school. This was before they separated the church and state, so I could still get services for my hearing aids. And if you thought public school was bad, the private school was even worse. And that's when the kids were taking it to a whole nother level. They wasn't just the kids my age. It was the 6th graders, the 5th graders, the kids older, saying, why do you talk funny? Why do you not talk like everybody else? Are you stupid? You retarded? That's when I started believing it. And because of it, I started hating myself. I hated myself so much that every time I would get in trouble, I would scream, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. And there was this one time in 2nd grade, I got in trouble. I came home and grabbed a knife. I held it to my head, touching it to my head, ready to push it in. I was ready to take my life. Because I realized I hated myself so much. I hated who I was. And I was different from everybody else. Thankfully, my mom was there and she said, Kelvin, we love you so much. We don't want you to do that. We care about you so much. So I put the knife down. And of course, my mom takes my pocket knife away at that point. And I couldn't have it no more. That was another sore spot in my life. But I had to keep going to school. I had to continue to do all the things at school. And I would have tried to take my life 2 more times. One was a big butcher knife, and another one was another, like one of those sawing steak knives. Because I hated myself so much, there was no way out. I couldn't imagine having to live the rest of my life being made fun of because I talked funny. I couldn't imagine having to deal with this. Yes, my parents loved me, everybody cared about me. But having to be different was becoming such a barrier for me. But then, right before Christmas break, I was playing on the playground and this kid jumped on my sandcastle type thing I was building and destroyed it. And he was laughing and he ran off, and there was a basketball nearby. And if you know me, I'm not a bad thrower. I threw that ball, hit him in the head, and made him stumble, and I was able to catch up. I jumped on him, and I just started punching him. And punching. And then eventually, somebody from the school came and pulled me off the kid and took me to the principal's office. I was so angry. But at that point, I had a peace. It was the weirdest thing ever. I went from being so angry to having peace in who I was. So I got to see the vice principal, Mr. McCullers. He's still alive today. If you need a Santa Claus, he's a good Santa Claus. He's such a great guy. In his office, he said, Kelvin, you're going to have in-school suspension because you beat so-and-so up. And I'm like, to a kid at his 3rd grade level, that was just a nightmare. I had no idea that was going to traumatize me so much. But remember, I said there was a peace in me. And that's when I asked him, how do I accept Jesus Christ into my life? Because I have this peace in my heart that it's going to be okay. He pulled out his Bible and said, because I was going to a Christian school, and pulled out Romans 10:9. If you confess your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord, and that He died on the cross and rose again on the 3rd day, you are saved. And that you believe that He forgives you. I said that, and immediately the hate for my life was gone. And that's when the purpose for my life transformed who I was. But it wasn't easy. I realized that even though I was different, I was going to have to help from the Almighty Creator, the one that made me who I was, through these challenges in life. The bullying didn't stop. My anger didn't stop. But my hatred for myself was gone. I still got in trouble. Still had to go see the principal. I still had to battle the bullies. But I was okay. Because I knew that I had peace in who I was. But then a curveball came when I was in the 6th grade. I was playing a soccer game at night. And everything was going well. I was playing goalie, my favorite position. Part of it, I was looking for that collision. I remember the ball was coming down from the left side, and I was getting ready to make the save and do what I needed to do as a goalie. And then the next thing you know, you hear this big boom. And what ended up happening is the lights on the field, the circuitry for those lights literally had an explosion. And it knocked out the power to the lights. It was pitch dark. And then I tried to open my eyes, and I couldn't see anything. It was so dark that I couldn't even see shapes. And I started to panic. And I screamed, Dad, 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 I can't see, I can't see, I can't see. My dad came and got me, pulled me off the field, and we went home. 3 months later from that moment, I went and saw a retina specialist to figure out what's going on with my eyes. The doctor looked at my eyes and says, I'm not sure what that is, but it's not normal. So the next doctor came and looked into my eyes, and he says, yeah, I see what you're talking about. And then we go get another doctor, and let's just double check that we're correct. And that doctor looked into my eyes. He said, yeah, you're right. I'm sitting there as a little kid thinking, what are you right about? We got the news, and we found out that I had Usher syndrome type 2. That's when everything fell apart. All I wanted to do was just chase the girls, skateboard, and play soccer. But I had no idea what the journey was going to be before me. I had lost all of my night vision, and I was going to have to survive, wondering when will I go blind. That journey was not easy, but I continued to try to be as normal as possible, whatever normal is. I played sports. I did everything that any teenager would do. Got my driver's license, got my first ticket, later 24 hours after getting my driver's license. That's a pretty funny story. You're gonna have to watch that on TikTok. I get through junior high and high school. Then I turned 19. Literally 2 months after turning 19, my vision had gotten to the point where I can no longer see a stoplight. I can no longer see the stop sign. And it was not even safe for me to travel by myself without a cane. But I wasn't willing to embrace blindness yet. I'm only 19 years old. I'm only living a life that every 19-year-old should live. Trying to find the girl to date and get married, have some kids, and move on with life. But that wasn't the path that was before me. That November 2006, I was just eating breakfast. I just finished. You had all these tables around in the cafeteria. Beautiful scenery outside because it's in the mountains. And I just walked to go drop off my dishes at the dish station. If you've ever been to a camp, a lot of times they have these dish stations where you drop off your plates and then it goes into a giant dishwasher type thing. Started making my way there, and somebody left their chair out and I didn't see it. I hit this chair so hard. It sent my plate and my cup over the chair, and it sent me onto the floor. I'm on my knees and I'm just crying, just sobbing, because I realized I had lost the bottom part of my vision. I no longer can see left, right, or up or down. All the vision I had left was the central part. At that moment, I had to make a choice. Do I rejoice in my suffering? Or do I continue to make my body do something it cannot do? Which is see. With the tears coming down my eyes, with the milk on my sweater, I threw up my arms and I said, I will rejoice in my suffering. I will persevere Knowing that with my perseverance, I'm going to build a character that has hope in Christ. And if you want to know where exactly this comes from, it's Romans 5:3-4. I said this out loud in front of all of my brothers and sisters at the Bible school I was going to, with the tears running down my face, and saying I'm willing to accept deafblindness. And that's when the journey began. But once I came back from Christmas break, the pain of not being able to drive anymore, being diagnosed legally blind, meaning that you have less than 20 degrees of vision or less, or 2200 vision. In my case, I had less than 20 degrees of vision. I get back to school realizing I can't even read my own books without my eyes hurting. And I said to God, I don't want to live no more. This deafblindness is so painful. So I just packed my pockets, grabbed my blind cane, and took the path into the mountains. I knew where they were. I knew how to get there. I had to go from 5,000 elevation to 6,000 elevation to be able to find them. And I would just hike. I did this 12 times in hopes that a bear would take my life. Some argue that it's a suicide attempt. Some argue that I was just crazy. But no matter what, on the 12th time, that still small voice came to me and said, Kelvin, it's going to be okay. I love you so much. I have a purpose for your life. You don't have to worry about losing your hearing. You don't have to worry about losing your vision. I'm going to be here for you. I just want you to enjoy who you are and allow others to see it. And that forever changed my life. God saying that He had a purpose for me and telling me to persevere through it because it's going to be okay. I'm going to build a character that has so much hope because He has it all under control. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but what it does mean, you can lean into Him and He's going to hold your hand through it. Like I said at the beginning, you have a choice to suffer with joy or to suffer with sorrow. I chose joy. So what do you choose?